If you don't know me, then you might have landed on my blog a time or two. I have a bunch of React-related articles that you might be familiar with, and testing and stuff as well. And I also created testing library. How many people are using testing library? That feels so great. And if you're using Playwright, then you're indirectly using testing library as well, because those queries were built into Playwright. And actually, here's something interesting. vtest is also building in the testing library queries. They're re-implementing them all. So in the near future, I will not be using testing library anymore, but I'll be using it like indirectly because it's been re-implemented everywhere. And that to me is a huge victory. I'm really, really happy about that. So the thing I want to talk about today is the Épique stack. And this is not like a prepared talk or anything like this. We're at a meetup, and so you can like raise your hand, interrupt me, talk, and ask questions and stuff as we go through this. And how much time do I have, actually? Till 9? Oh, man. You are not ready for this. Yeah, okay, great. Well, we got tons of time. So I fully expect questions as we go, and we're just going to, this is going to feel kind of like one of my live streams. I'm just going to be working on stuff and showing you stuff. So years ago now, we had, I was working on the Remix team. How many people here actually have shipped an app with Remix before? Okay, nice. That's great. And then React Router, same question. Yeah, more people. So congratulations, you're all now Remix developers. We gotcha. React Router v7 is Remix. And so years ago when I was on the Remix team, one thing that we did was we added this thing called stacks. And the reason that we did this, or what the problem that we're trying to solve, is that Remix is by intention kind of unopinionated in how you deploy it, where you deploy it, what server architecture you're using, like a bunch of different things. So it works serverless, it works long-running server, it works with Express, it works with Hano, it works with just anything, like regular node HTTP module. Like you can make it work with any of those things. And the lack of opinion actually was a challenge for people. Like one of the primary reasons that we did that was so that we would slip into whatever existing application you have. But if you are starting a new application, you don't want to have to make all those decisions. You want to just like say, well, how am I supposed to do this? And so before stacks, we actually had templates where you could say, okay, here's your Express template, or here, if you want to use those. But they were just really slim. There wasn't a lot to them. And even though we could say that Remix is technically a full stack framework, because technically you can run the full stack, hold on, here we are. Because you can run like code on both sides of the network chasm. It's not really a full stack in the sense that like Laravel is full stack, or Ruby on Rails or something, because those include a lot of things like a database and an ORM and authentication and all of these other things. Queuing and email, all of that. So, so we gave people, we basically, the way that Ryan liked to say it, Ryan Florence, he would say, we would like show people Michael Jordan doing a slam dunk, and then we would give them a basketball and say, okay, now you can do that. And so we decided to make stacks, which are project templates that are just much more fully featured. They have a bunch more things in them, testing and things, and databases, setup, authentication, all of that. And so that way, it's just a lot easier for people to get up and going. And when we did this, we created 3 that were the main stacks. So there's the blue stack, which was deployed on the edge, distributed with long-running server running Postgres on fly.io. This was actually based off of my original website, which for a while, I was the biggest remix site in the world. So that's fun. Not anymore. And then we also made the indie stack, which is similar to that, except it used SQLite. And that one's based off of my current website. So I migrated from Postgres to SQLite. And then we also made the grunge stack. And that was the last time I ever touched AWS, was when I was working on the grunge stack. So that one's deployed to AWS, your standard serverless type of architecture with, it used Arc, or it uses Arc and Domino, or Domino? I don't know how they name all their stuff over there at AWS. But yes, Dynamo DB. It's right there in front of my face. And then we also added the ability for anybody to make a stack. And the thing is, when you're going to take a stand with stacks like this, you're going to have to make some opinions, and you're going to have to put a lot of work into it, the more that it's able to do. And so we kind of got to a spot, and we stopped and said, OK, this is as far as we're going to go with these stacks. And these stacks are still like remix stacks, but now with the React Router version 7 being released, these are no longer, these haven't been updated to React Router as far as I know. Maybe they were updated without me knowing. Yeah, last update was 4 months ago, so that's before React Router v7. So I wouldn't recommend using these anymore, but I'm just trying to give you some context and some history around things. So about 2 years ago at ReactConf, or RemixConf year 2, I think that was, 2022 or 23. Yeah, that was 23. I announced, or I launched my own custom stack, the Épique stack. And this was saying, hey, we got like in a pretty good spot with the Indus stack, but I think there's a lot more that we can do for people. And also, like, I want to swap out a couple of the tools. In particular, I wanted to swap out Playwright, or Cypress for Playwright. I wanted to add a lot more to the data model. I wanted to add more to the authentication, all of that stuff. Monitoring with Sentry, a lot more stuff. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the experience of getting the Épique stack up and running. Actually, before I do that, how many of you have ever bootstrapped an app with like a proper full stack framework like Laravel or Rails or something like that? Oh, okay, cool. I won't disappoint as many of you as I thought. So what I'm about to do with the Épique stack is it differs from those other traditional frameworks in the sense that I don't, I actually generate a lot more code for you that you become the owner of. It's a little bit like ShadCN, where you are now responsible for this code, and if I make updates, you have to either follow along or you just don't get those updates. The goal eventually is to like find good ways to abstract different pieces so that you can just upgrade it like it's a regular dependency. Yeah, so don't, like, for those of you who have actually worked with other frameworks, don't expect too much. For those of you who haven't, expect a lot. It's going to be great. So to get started with the Épique stack, we're going to say npm create Épique app. We're going to create an Épique app in my desktop. And I'm going to call this the ride chooser. So when I was on the train to Disneyland, I was trying to decide, OK, I've got 2 hours. What am I going to do in 2 hours to really make the most of it? And I just talked to Grok, and I was like, hey, what should I do? So we're going to make a ride chooser app. So what this does, this is actually still using the Remix CLI for initializing an app. Eventually, I'll probably make my own CLI. But right here, once we've downloaded the template for our app, it's going to run our Remix init script. And that involves running the setup So it's going to run the build just to make sure that everything is installed properly. It will run a deploy so that it can get a local database up and running. It's going to generate our client, and then it's also going to install Playwright, which I sure hope I have that installed already, because that would take too long. So here's the build. Here's setting up our database. We're using SQLite. It's phenomenal. And actually, one of the things that I wanted to call out specifically is that what's really neat about React Router v7 Remix is that it gives you a really great spot for like just getting started on a new app, but then it scales like beautifully. And so like regardless of how big your team gets, even like with nested routing in React Router v6, that like improved greatly, because now you can have one team that's in charge of the shell, and you can have another team that's in charge of these sets of routes, and another one that's in charge of these, and they don't have to coordinate as much as they used to before we had nested routing. So, and then at like eventually maybe you decide you want to do micro front ends, or you want to do what's the word? Module federation or something. And React Router is very well suited for that as well. I don't know anything about module federation. That's the sort of thing that's like, I'm really glad I don't have that problem. But my understanding is Zach Jackson, the guy behind module federation, said that Remix and React Router were the easiest to add module federation support to. I didn't mean to call anybody else out, but there's nobody other than Next.js. So he's comparing it against Next.js. It's a lot easier. So anyway, I mentioned that because some of you might be raising your eyebrows at SQLite and think, oh, OK, so this is just for toys. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you thought that. I'll just address that and say SQLite is the most deployed database in the world. It is a very solid database. And find me another database that has 0 milliseconds of latency. Yeah, this thing screams. It is so fast, and it's great. Also, the Épique stack sets you up to have distributed SQLite. So you can have as many regions as you want, and your database is right there on disk, and it replicates automatically. It's very cool, using a tool called LightFS, and that's all set up for you. So yeah, then we've got Prisma setting up stuff. Oh, and yeah, I should have hit yes while I explained all that stuff. So we're going to set up deployment right now. This deploys to fly.io. So that's the multi-region host that I'm a huge fan of. Been using Fly for years. Evaluated a whole bunch of different solutions, chose Fly, and I'm so glad that I did, because I'm very happy with them. So I'm already logged in. If you weren't logged in, then it would tell you, hey, you need to install the CLI, and then log in, and then we can proceed. So I'm going to say, yep, I want to proceed. And it shows me all of the regions there are. And look, there's one right here in Paris. So we're and it automatically selects the one that's closest to you. So we're going to go ahead with Paris. And would I like to set up a staging environment? Normally, if I was building something real, I would. But we're not building something real. This is all pretend. So I'm going to say no. And then on Fly, you have organizations. So I'm going to put this in my personal organization. And then it creates my app, Ride Chooser 0AA5. So then it sets some secrets in there for our session token, or what is it, session secret. We've got a couple other environment variables it's going to set. It creates volume for our SQLite database, and we also have caching of images. So we have built-in image optimization that is self-hosted. So you don't have to pay some other service to do it. It all just runs yourself. Thank you, and Andres, for building that. It's very cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and we'll deploy right now too. Yeah, oh, and Tigris. Tigris is another service that integrates very tightly with fly.io. It's basically like an object storage, and CDN had a baby and made Tigris. That's what that is. So think of it as S3, but globally distributed. So it's faster, which is good and for most people. So yeah, now we're actually running the build right now. This is all running in a Docker we have a Docker file that has been pre-created for you. You will probably never need to touch it. I know some of you are like, Docker, don't worry, you're not running it locally typically, and you probably won't need to touch it except to like upgrade your version of Node if you ever want to do that. And if you ever actually do need to like touch your Docker file, you'll be glad that you can. You're like, oh, I actually do need ffmpeg on this server. Boom, easy, very easy. apt-get ffmpeg, now you've got ffmpeg. It's very nice. Okay, yeah, sweet. And here we've got our Sentry is all set up here as well, which is pretty sweet. We are so close. We just added all of the files and publishing all these layers, running on the internet that I'm so glad is actually working, because this would not be as cool if it weren't. So thank you. We are so close. And publishing manifest for registry. Watch your deployment. So now, okay, so we've built our image, uploaded that to the Fly registry. Now the Fly registry created a machine for us. It's going to download that image and run it. And so this shouldn't take much more time at all. And actually, you know what? While this is happening, I'll just open up my editor as well. Whoops, that is not what I wanted. No. What did I call this? Ride chooser. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
With Docker and Fly, do you have like rollback possibility?
Yes. So I don't know that they have actually made a button for that yet, but it is possible to have it roll back to a previous version through the CLI. Yeah.
Right. So any version kind of like
I'm not sure how long they keep your images in the registry. I've not ever. I am a roll forward kind of developer, which is like, I gotta fix this, oh, please fix it. I probably should just roll back and then take it easy, but. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, no, I don't want to roll this back. I just need to fix this one little thing, and then it's never that one little thing. Yeah. Okay, so great. Now we are deployed. You could go to that URL right now if you wanted to. And we have the Épique stack. So what's really neat about this is that it gets your deploy pipeline like set up from the very start, which is one of those things that, at least early in my career as a developer, I never wanted to get to that. I'm just like, I'm going to build the app and I'm going to do all kinds of things. And then I go and do all of that stuff, and I realize the just massive amount of work that I need to do. And I made some decisions back here that make this part really hard. So getting this part done matters a lot when it's something that you care about and want to build. If you don't care about it, you're just like, oh, I'm just building something for fun or whatever, then this is where you go. You go to bolt.new or v0, and you just like spit out something, and the AI spit out something, and it's awesome, then you throw it away later. So the Épique stack is not for that kind of an app. The Épique stack is for the apps that you actually want to maintain, and so you're going to be willing to put in the time and energy to actually make it have a deploy pipeline and everything. Speaking of the deploy pipeline, we're not done with this these prompts yet. So we've got everything configured. We could add a domain. We'd go to Fly's dashboard to add a custom domain and everything over there later. And it has free SSL certificates. How many of you remember what a pain it was to add SSL to your domain? Yeah, like that was the worst. And now you don't even think about it like at all. It's just like a magic thing that happens. It's so nice. I hated that. I never actually really understood how it worked. I just and we didn't have AI back. Uphill both ways in the snow. Okay, so now we're going to set up GitHub action deployment. So I'm going to say yes. That's going to tell me to create a new repository. So I'm going to say, let's make the ride chooser repository. Let me bump this up so you can see it. Example of the Épique stack. We'll make it public. We're not going to add anything. Let's create this repo. Okay, and then over here it's asking us what's the URL. So I'll just paste that in. And now it's opened up the secrets for our action. So to be able to deploy from our GitHub action, we're going to need a secret. Maybe one day Fly will have a much more tighter integrated experience. So some of you who are like, well, I deploy on Vercel, and it's like, I don't have to worry about deploy secrets and stuff. Like, that's great. We are going to just use GitHub to do all of this for us. So yeah, so here we're going to, oh, did it not open? Oh, it did. It did. So we're going to go over here. I'm going to really just hope that I don't reveal any secret tokens. I'm pretty sure they hide it all. So we're going to, oh, hey, here I am. Yeah, right there. Yeah, this is what I want. So we're going to say this is our ride chooser deploy token. Actually, they have better tokens now. I noticed in the access tokens, you can create a token that's for deploying a specific app, which I think is very nice. So deploy from GitHub Actions, ride chooser. And where is it? Ride chooser. Oh, yeah, 0AA5. Generate token. Boom. See? And now you can deploy this specific app, but you can't deploy anything else. And so now I'm not so worried. Yeah, go ahead and copy that. See if I care. I'm going to delete this app later. Anyway, so we're going to grab the Fly API token, stick it right there, add that secret. And yeah, then we're ready to rock and roll. So let's cd into, actually, no, I'm going to get out of this. And we're going to go into here. OK. Yeah, here we go. We're going to git add all the things. We're going to commit init. And we're going to push. Oh, whoops. Git. They give you stuff to copy, don't they? We're going to copy this guy. Yoink. There we go. And then I'm going to start first. Ha! Beat ya. We'll go over to our actions, and now this has our deployment pipeline. So we have TypeScript checking, our vtest, our playwright, ESLint, and once all those pass, then it will automatically deploy. So just a couple of things that you have to wire up. Maybe one day I'll make the CLI like authenticate with your GitHub or something. I don't know. You might not want me to. And from there, it will just deploy. Trust me, it will. So yeah, before I continue and like explore what the code base actually looks like, I've got like tons and tons of things that I can show you, or we're not like anywhere close to done. So does anybody have any other questions on getting the app up and started? Yes, Christopher. Oh, yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah,
Right this time.
good idea.
If you using the Épique stack, it's mandatory to deploy to Fly.
So you can swap that out for sure, but like the default is to deploy to Fly. If you wanted to swap it out, you could deploy anywhere that takes a Docker file. You'd just like change what the deploy command is doing and stuff. If you wanted to deploy it to somewhere that's serverless, like Cloudflare or Vercel or something, you'd have to change some more stuff because we make some assumptions about being a long-running server. It shouldn't be a ton, and you'd literally just be like, hey, I want to change over to deploying on Vercel, and then let the AI do all the things. It will do it wrong, and it will miss things, but that will help get you there. So yeah, the short answer to your question is, no, it's not mandatory, but that's what's built in. Good question. Other questions? Yeah.
I heard Fly was going to end support for LightFS.
Yeah, good question.
What are you doing with distributing
LightFS?
the...
Yeah, so Fly is the they're the ones who maintain the open source project that is LightFS. And for a while, they also had a product called LightFS Cloud. And so anytime you do a write to your SQLite database, they replicate that to all of your non-primary regions. So you have like a single writer, and then everything's replicated. And the Épique stack takes care of making sure that all writes go to that primary writer. So the LightFS cloud was just like an additional replica that would be your backup. And then they had like a easy button to roll back if you had some sort of disaster or something like that. They deprecated LightFS Cloud, so now you have to do backups yourself. The Épique stack right now doesn't have that built in, but Fly takes automatic backups of your volumes and hangs on to them for like 30 days every day. And so if it was like a real disaster, you never like, oh, I made the Épique stack and I never set up backups, you could still get like restore from a day. And if that's not enough, which probably for anything serious is probably not enough, you should probably be doing, well, you should, two things. You should make it really easy to restore from a backup, which it's not super easy to restore from a volume. It takes a couple, takes some knowledge. And then the other thing is you probably should be backing up a lot more. LightFS Cloud literally backed up like I think it backed up every hour or something like that. And so, yeah, that would be something that you'd want to do. And there's a contributor. His name is Dev. He's speaking at Épique WebConf next week. Which, by the way, if you want to just like come out to Utah with me next week, you can come to Épique WebConf, and it's going to be great. Yeah, so Dev has been building some stuff on the Épique stack, and he has a solution for automatic backups. It's actually really simple. He made an API endpoint on his app that he hits with a cron with GitHub, just like with a private token and stuff. He hits that, and then it uploads a copy of the database to S3. And then he has another, like a special page when you're signed in as admin, or no, it's another job that will restore automatically as well. So it's pretty cool. You could check it out in the Épique stack discussions where he describes what he does. He gives an example, and eventually we might build something like that in. Except I think I'd probably set it up to do like hourly or something. So.
Nice.
Good question. Cool. Any other questions? Luther, did you have a question?
No, there's some feedback.
Oh, feedback on the mic.
There's feedback on mic.
Sorry.
Technician, where's the technician?
Yeah, another question.
So I saw there are a lot of things built in Épique Dev Stack, but in order to maintain all of that, every package is moving its own way. And how do you maintain all that? There's a lot of contributors, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is kind of the blessing and curse of JavaScript is right here. All of this. It keeps going. We have dev dependencies now. So that's like, how many of you have mixed feelings about this like I do? No? You all? Okay. For me, the mixed feeling is, wow, we have so many awesome tools that we can use to build our apps. And the other feeling is, wow, we have so many tools to build our apps. And so this is where I think to still have mixed feelings about this, but they're like Laravel has a pretty good leg up on us in the JavaScript ecosystem because they just like, you do whatever you want to, and we'll just do whatever you do. And that's like, we're happy with that in the Laravel community. I don't know, maybe I'm just a tinkerer and I like to like have some more control or something. I'm not sure. There's something about the JavaScript ecosystem that like wants to have more control over the way that we build apps, or needs to, or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, so your question is well founded. How do we manage all of this? Here's how I manage it. npm update. I have a little script that I run that goes through and updates all of our dependencies. Now, I'm not ready to upgrade to Tailwind 4 yet. I don't know what JS DOM is doing. We're going to move away from that eventually anyway. Yeah, we're not running maybe we should be upgrading Express. But yeah, like this updates, and then I run install, and then I run the tests, and the way that we all do it, right? And that is the answer for the Épique stack. The cool thing about the Épique stack, though, is that even though once you download the template, you're no longer connected to whatever is happening in the Épique stack. You don't just get those updates for free. The cool thing is, as you can go and reference the changes that are being made to the Épique stack and use that to apply those changes for yourself if that's something that you want. It's like, it's like hiring me for free. Like to help you with your architecture of your app. And some of you might think that that is useful and others might not. But for me, I think that is actually kind of cool. I want to reset this because I don't want to do that. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, the long or short answer to your question is yes, you have to manage those just like you do with any JavaScript full stack app. But you at least get to see how I do it when I do. So, good question. Yeah, Luther.
Oh, the thing is, like, personally, I haven't done tests yet in JavaScript, and so my question is, what do you recommend right now for testing in JavaScript?
Yeah, good question. I'm glad you asked that too. So one of the, probably the most useful part of the Épique stack is not what I've shown you so far. The most useful part of the Épique stack is right here, the GitHub, where you can go through and see how I did stuff. Because most of us, unless you work on a special skunkworks team at your company or something, we're not booting up new apps every day we go to work. We're working on existing apps. And so being able to like generate a new app that's ready for production is like neat, but not like day-to-day practical to you. But what's really nice is you can go through this and say, okay, how did he set up his routes config? And how did he, how did Kent and team deal with, a progress bar, or their toast messages, or their authentication, their two-factor auth, or like whatever. And then on top of that, we have the decision documents that I've written for the decisions that I make as things change over time, or like how I got started in this. So, okay, why did Kent decide to do monitoring with Sentry? Okay, here's the context around it, here's the decision, here's consequences. A recent one that I did that was kind of interesting was our Tigris image support, where we actually changed the way that we store images to be Tigris. And here's all of the things that went into my decision-making process. So to get specifically to your question about testing, you can take a look at, I would just start at the package.json and say, okay, what is the test script? Okay, vtest. So now I'm going to go learn about vtest. Oh, look, there's some other test scripts. Here's Playwright. Okay, so he's using Playwright. And on top of that, we can look at, oh, there's the Playwright config. So here's how he's configured that. Here's how that all works together. Oh, the start mocks thing. That's kind of interesting. We'll talk about that later. And here's the vt config, and that includes the testing configuration. And actually, on top of that, the configuration is one thing that has been abstracted for a lot of the projects. So the TypeScript config is inside of a separate package, so you can get updates to that. The Prettier and ESLint configs are also in that separate package. I'm trying to decide if I should mention this now or later. In case I don't mention it, ask me about the Épique stack or the Épique programming style guide that I just soft launched yesterday. Yeah, so it's all in here that you can reference and apply it to your own project. So does that answer your question, Luther? All right, super. Yeah, we got two right here.
All right, thank you. So any plans to add like AI support into the Épique stack? Because like, for example, Vercel's AI SDK is becoming really good. And an example about how to handle a chat box, or even a more complex example like Expo AI, which even Bacon made a crazy demo with like
it was one of the coolest demos I've ever seen. It really
would be cool to see, because Vercel does it with Next, right? Like you can bootstrap a template with AI built in. So it would be good to see how it is correctly implemented with Remix, because the form handling happens on the server, but Vercel's AI SDK uses client-side thing. You create a special route for this because it's streaming, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, so that's another great question. So the docs also has this examples page that has just a bunch of different examples. And the way that this is supposed to work is people will bootstrap a new Epic Stack app, they'll commit, and then they'll make whatever changes they need for their example, and then they'll commit again. And then you can see what are the changes necessary to add this to the Epic Stack. And one of those is OpenAI, and I made this one. So if you want to, you can take a look at, okay, so what does it take to add OpenAI completions? Okay, we're going to need an API key. I turned off deploying because I don't want to have people doing stuff and charging me money. And then, yeah, here's some documentation on that. Then we have this completions route that takes a loader, and we've got our prompt, and we're using an event stream. So we've got server-sent events going on here. And then here, I actually haven't showed you what the app actually does. So it actually, there are features in this app that you'll typically want to remove, but they're there to make it easier for you to like see how things are structured and get started. But yeah, so one, it's a note-taking app, and so the feature that I added was to make it so that you can complete the title based off of what the note contents are, and vice versa. And so yeah, that, to answer your question, yes, we do have an example of how to do that. It's not built in. It's kind of a high bar for what actually gets built into the stack, because I want to make sure that it's something that like at least 80% of people will find useful. But having an example like that should be pretty helpful. So.
Yeah, but it is like a chat box, a basic chat box, and now we can create like agents that do crazy stuff. So it would be good to see like a real implementation of a really complex, similar to web search, document search. Like this is just a chat box, which is like basic nowadays, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. That'd be way cool. I'm really looking forward to your PR for that. Yeah, go ahead.
I know that a lot of people love Remix for being close to the platform, and I was wondering if you carry on some of this philosophy throughout Epic Stack, where you chose tools that are close to the platform with less abstractions. Or
Yeah, that's a great question. That kind of gets to the guiding principles a little bit. So I've got the word platform in here somewhere. No, I don't. Well, I should. It is... it's kind of encoded in a couple of these. So here are the guiding principles. I'll get to your question here in a second. But the things that help, and actually, I wrote these, and then I made the Epic Web or the Epic programming principles, which is kind of like taking this and going much, much bigger. And this one I know does have platform in here somewhere. We should probably add a search to this, because I'm always coming in here like, where did that go? But yeah, use the platform is one of these principles. So coming back to this, here are a couple of the principles for the Epic Stack specifically. One is to limit services. So this is why we do our own image optimization. So like it like handles resizing for the proper sizes and serving the proper format based on the user agent, all that stuff. It's not like full featured as what you get from Cloudinary or something, but it also doesn't cost you $2,000 a month or whatever, depending on your scale. Cloudflare is a lot cheaper. I'm stuck. I shouldn't say stuck. Cloudinary's been awesome, and I love using Cloudinary. But yeah, it is a very expensive product. So anyway, we try to avoid services when we can. Some services that we don't avoid, because otherwise you just would be in big trouble. Hosting. I'm not going to throw this on a Raspberry Pi in my closet. And then sending email is another big one, because if you try to send email yourself, you're either never going to get your emails delivered, or you're going to become an email sending platform because it's all you will ever do to get your emails delivered. So they're like, I try to be really practical in limiting those services. Did you have a question about that, Jeremy?
Yes, can't you just self-host your email platform?
Self-host your what?
Your email platform?
So the problem isn't the code necessary or the service itself. The problem is deliverability. And what's the word I'm looking for? Reputation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the big problem. And so I guess it's hard. I've never tried, but I've talked to smart people who have, and they're like, don't try. Unless you want that to be your business, don't even try. Although I also hear people say that about authentication, and I strongly disagree with that. So we hand roll our authentication in this. We're not hand rolling our own crypto or anything. When I say I hand roll auth, people are like, "You're doing your own crypto?" No, we're not doing our own. We got crypto tools, but we're not using a service for authentication. That's built in. Just like Laravel, Ruby on Rails, they're all doing their own authentication. You don't need a third-party service for it. You can use one. They're not like the devil, but you don't need it, and we don't use one. Yeah, here's another one of the principles is only including common use cases. It is a starter app, but those aren't the docs, and so I try to limit the amount of things that are included so you have fewer things to remove. That said, you will absolutely, if you try to bootstrap like 6 apps in a day, you will be so tired of removing stuff. You're like, I gotta remove these things, and but you're not going to be bootstrapping 6 apps a day that you're like actually maintaining. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. But people have complained about this, so I might slim it down even further. Yeah, minimize setup friction. Like I said, we are doing email. We're using resend before we used Mailgun. There's a decision document about that. It's fine, but like I also, as part of this optimize for adaptability, I try to distance myself from any of these services so they're easy to swap out. So for example, our send email, email server thing here, we export a single function, send email, and that's it. So you just re-implement this function with whatever provider. We're not even using their SDK, because that's actually another one of the programming principles is don't bring an SDK in if you're just going to use it for like one thing. Just like, look, it's a fetch request. It's really, that's it. And then handling errors and stuff. I'm not going to bring in an SDK for that. I'm going to write the code, and then I'm going to just move on with my life. And so this is really easy to swap out. Along part of that minimizing setup friction is I don't want you to have to sign up for like 30 services when you're just getting into this. And so I have this check. If you haven't set a resend API key and we're not in a mocks situation, I'll talk about mocks later, then we're just going to console log and we're going to pretend that the email was sent. And so then you can go look at your production logs and see, okay, here's the email, just copy paste the link and now you're logged in. So you can like go pretty far in developing your app before you actually have to start signing up for services you're going to need to pay for and stuff. So that's one of the other things, optimizing for adaptability, being able to easily swap out services and stuff, something that I try to do. Some things are harder to swap out than others. So like, let's say, well, I don't want to use Prisma, I want to use Drizzle. How many of you are thinking that right now? You prefer Drizzle. So how many people like Prisma? Yeah, okay, good. Twitter would have you feel like that's the opposite, and like everybody hates Prisma and Drizzle is the best, and Drizzle is great, but Prisma is also great, and I'm very happy with Prisma. But if you wanted to swap out Prisma for Drizzle, that's going to be a big chore. So there's only so much that I can do as far as optimizing for adaptability. With some, like, here's another one. If you wanted to swap out React Router v7 for Next.js, you're going to have a hard time too. So like, there are some things that we're just going to be like, nope, I'm investing really heavy into that thing. But in general, I try to distance ourselves from things so you can swap things out. Another example is Tigris. It's an S3 compatible host, but if you have a contract with Amazon, you want to host this on S3, should be very, very, in fact, that one in particular, you should be able to just change your API key or environment variables, and it will just work, because that's, you know, S3 de facto standard stuff. So that's kind of cool. But Tigris is great. Very happy with Tigris. Try to avoid doing more than one way to do the same thing. And then offline development. This one's important to me. How many of you do like your day-to-day work not connected to the internet? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes. I like to go up into the mountains and have no internet connection, just work by the stream. It's beautiful and awesome. But I don't do that every day. That's not why I think offline development is important. The reason offline development, and what I mean is like, not like an offline first app or any, like I'm not talking about making an app that works offline. I'm talking about being able to work on the app when you're offline. And, you know, provided you don't need to install dependencies or anything. And the reason that this is important to me is because it acts as a forcing function for simplifying your app architecture. If you can't run it locally, then, or if that's not important to you, then you start adding a bunch of things that can add complexity to your application and to the way that you've architected things. And like, for sure, sometimes you've got, you're building your app over here, and then there's the back end, like lower level services developers who are doing like all the complicated stuff. I worked at a company that did voice over IP. And so like, I'm not, I mean, I'm not making phone calls offline. Like, you're not going to do that. So there's like, these are principles. They're not like, do this or you will die or anything. Or so it's, in general, though, by trying to make things so that you can work offline, it simplifies things. It speeds up your tests by a lot. It speeds up your development by a lot. It makes your development more reliable. Unfortunately, it means that if there's an outage of some kind, you can't tell your boss, I couldn't work, because it actually all works offline. Yeah, so what that means, though, is that any third-party service, or not even third-party, it could be first-party, but any external service, we want to have mocks for. And you're going to want to have those for your tests anyway, but we have some set up for you for your development. And we use MSW. How many of you are familiar with MSW? Yeah, it's phenomenal. Artem is just so, hey, look, he put my face on the homepage. I forgot about that. Where's Artem's face? Hey, Corey House, he's a nice guy. Oh, come on, Artem. You got to, like, let yourself shine a little bit, bro. Oh, no, that's your, oh, come on. Oh, here he is. There he is. Okay. This guy, cool dude. He is the teacher on Epic Web for testing. He is basically taking testingjavascript.com, making it a ton better and putting it on Epic Web. That's what Artem is doing. Very smart, super cool dude. And we're using his tool MSW for mocking out all third-party everything in the Epic stack. So that's what this bit right here is for. So if we have mocks enabled, then we can just go ahead and make this fetch call, even if you don't have a resend API key, because we're going to mock that out. And the way that it gets mocked is in this test mocks directory. So we're going to handle a post request to that URL. We're going to make sure that the authorization header shows up, because if it doesn't, then that's going to be a problem. We're going to get the request JSON. We're going to write that to the file system inside this fixtures directory. I kind of expected it. Oh, did I not? Here, we're going to run the end-to-end test here really quick, because that will create those emails. Here we go. Yeah, here's our images that have been cached now. Here's our emails, some uploaded files. They're all showing up in this fixtures directory. So yeah, here's an example of an email. We write it to the file system, so then the end-to-end test can read this file to be like, I'm reading the email. So we have full-on tests for the onboarding flow, login flow, like reset password, all of that is all built. So you start up with this app and you're like, this is so big. There's so much. I don't know what, like, I didn't build this. How do I make sure I don't break anything? Well, we've got tests for all of those things. So if you break something, you will know. which is pretty cool. And so, yeah, that's just one example of what we do with MSW. We also, we actually have pwn passwords, so we'll check the password, like whether somebody is using a commonly used password or something. That was actually pretty recent. But we're not going to rely on this service. So if this service fails for any reason, like your users will continue to be able to onboard and stuff. So we don't have an SLA on this. So we're just like, this is a progressive enhancement, sort of. And then we also have GitHub auth built in. So not because most of you are going to be building apps that have GitHub auth, though like your side projects probably like might. We all like to do that. But because it means that we're set up to do OAuth. So if we go into here, we've got our GitHub server. So this uses Remix auth GitHub, which is an OAuth provider. And so then you can look at this and be like, oh, okay, I can swap this for the Google version of this, or the Microsoft, or the whatever. And so, and on top of that, the way that we structure the data schema with the connections, each user has any number of connections. So this is not specific to GitHub. So you can really easily swap any of those out. You don't even have to change the database schema, which I think is quite nice. But it's all mocked out in here as well. So you can even like say, okay, I want to log in it with GitHub, and you will actually log in, but you don't actually talk to GitHub, so you still are working offline. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and then even like Tigris is where we upload files, right? Well, we mock that out, and we instead save those files to this uploaded directory. And so here's from our test of like making sure that uploading files worked. It uploaded to right there. So that's kind of neat. Cool. So yeah, those are the principles, the guiding principles for the Épique stack. And then again, the Épique programming principles are more like broad and a lot more set of principles that guide just the way that I develop software. So now I think maybe this would be a good time too to talk about the style guide that I just soft launched, the Épique programming style guide. It's exactly what you would expect from a style guide. It's like, here's how I do naming, and here's how I do arrays and classes and whatever. So that's not the cool part of this. The cool part of this is that once I'm satisfied with the comprehensiveness of this style guide, then I'm going to turn the style guide into cursor rules that would be built into the Épique stack. And then you're not going to have use effects showing up when they shouldn't and stuff like that, which is pretty neat. So it works really great if you like writing code the way that I like to write code. But if you don't, that's the other cool thing with the Épique stack is you download it and it's your code and you can change it however you want. And like you can tell the AI, hey, I actually do like to have semicolons. And actually the format will fix that for you. Yeah, so that's another thing. Look forward to that coming here pretty soon. Okay, I feel like I've pretty much talked about most of the things that I wanted to talk about. Here, let's just do this really quick. So this is the deployed version. So if we go to fly.io/dashboard/that, here's our oh, no, just kidding. I have 30 apps. Holy smokes. Should probably delete some apps. Where am I? Dashboard. There we go. Ride chooser. That's what I want. Okay, so we're going to look at our, oh, here's another cool thing. We have metrics and a Grafana dashboard. And that's like just a feature that we get for free because we're using Fly. And so you can see like all the Grafana nonsense that you do when you're doing this stuff. Look, all of our traffic is coming from France. Wonder why that is. Oh, right. Haha. Yeah, so, and you've got log search, Sentry is built in, all this stuff. It's very cool. So here we are. We've got logs. Let me go over here, refresh the page, make sure we get that log. There it is. Oh, we also have health checks. So you'll see these head requests show up occasionally to just make sure, are you still able to serve traffic? And if you're not, then we can do rollbacks or whatever. Or we won't deploy your app. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so I'm going to go to login. We're going to create an account. I'm going to say my email is, yeah, kentc, or we'll do me@kentcdodds.com. We'll submit that, and we'll come over here. And because I haven't set up resend yet, it just logs here. And now I just need to look for the code, which is right there. And I'll stick it right there and submit. And now I can onboard. So my username is kentcdodds. My name is Kent. My password is I like Twix. That is literally what I just typed. So you can go log in as me. Oh, whoops. Just kidding. I can't even log in as me. Paris. There we go. I like Paris. What? Oh, it's too common. Hey, look, it works. Okay, fine. Well, now we're not going to log in as me unless you can remember what that said. Yeah, sure, save that. I'm going to, what the? Okay, what the heck? Yeah, clearly. I'll never be able to log in here again. All right, we'll go to profile, edit profile. I can upload a picture, like all that stuff. Here's the stuff that I wanted to show you, though. I've got two-factor authentication set up. I'm not going to do that right now because 1Password's being a bum. And then we also have passkeys support, which I think is pretty cool. Let's see if that works. Hey, it did. Awesome. So then I can go and log out, and we'll log in, and we'll log in with the passkeys, sign in, and boom, look, I'm logged in. Passkeys rock. They are so great. Very happy with passkeys. Oh yeah, and because our sessions run in the database, we can actually have multiple, we have the ability to delete other or log out of other sessions, which is nice. And one of the problems with doing that, though, is that every request has to results in a database query to go resolve the session data and make sure that they're able to be logged in and stuff. But it's not a problem if you're running SQLite and your database is literally on that machine and your latency is 0 milliseconds and your request, your database requests are instant. So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to shout out SQLite again because it just rocks. Yeah. So then the rest of this, we do have user search, and then we have notes and woohoo, all that stuff, image upload, all of that. Of course, you're going to delete all this stuff anyway, but I thought it would be useful for you to see how that's set up. We have the form inputs and everything you can use elsewhere. Zod is the best. Zod is everywhere. It's so great. I love Zod. Shadcn is in here. Let's see. I think that's everything that I wanted to share. Any other questions before I stop talking? Yeah.
How much compute and storage do you need to
Yeah, how much compute and storage do you need to run the Épique stack? So this is running right now on the free tier of, well, Fly doesn't have a free tier. They have free allowances. It's some, I don't even know. You don't have to pay anything if you're running this. However, if you're going to be doing a lot with images and stuff, then your CPU is going to be spiking anytime somebody requests an image that haven't processed yet and stuff like that. So in anything serious, yeah, you probably will have to increase your memory and your CPU. You'll end up spending a couple bucks a month. Maybe if you get an app that is quite popular, then you're going to be still less than $100 a month, unless it's actually quite popular. Then you're going to be paying quite popular money. But I'm pretty sure it's still going to be less than you would if you were to go off to the serverless architecture. I'm gonna just a little thing about serverless. This is a hot take. Serverless breeds services. What does that mean? When you deploy with serverless, there are a lot of things you cannot do. You can't really process images because you don't have the resources or the time. Yeah, okay, that's not entirely true. You could probably make something like that work. But there are a lot of things that you just don't want to do when you're running in a serverless architecture. and so now you have to have services for handling, and if you're just running everything on AWS, then these are all AWS services anyway, so maybe you don't care. But you just end up having to cobble together a lot of services. With the Épique stack, we're just like, let's just do it all here in this one process, or in this one machine anyway. And then you can fan those out to like separate services. So one person who actually ran into this problem where they're like, anytime I have a new image, my CPU spikes. They're right now investigating having like a dedicated service that they host within Fly, so they can ramp that up and down as needed. And I like that's a perfectly good solution. They'll probably save money doing that too. But anyway, what I was getting to was if you were to do the same thing the serverless way with adding all these services, you'd probably be spending more. That's all I wanted to say about that, because you have to like pay for all the services and all their margin that they're charging for that. Yeah. That said, if you use their services, you don't have to write or maintain that code yourself, and so it's not like they are just pulling money out of your pocket for no reason. Like there are reasons for them, but for myself, I would prefer to opt into that later, especially when I can just boot up a new app this easily. So, cool. Other questions? Yeah, in the back. Just throw it. No, just kidding. Don't throw it. Please don't throw it.
Thank you. The Épique stack seems to be really complete, but is there something that you want to add in the future that you don't have?
Oh, is there
right
anything?
Now?
Yeah. So probably the biggest thing right now is jobs and queuing. So with what the Épique stack does out of the box, there's not really much of a reason to do jobs and queuing unless you don't trust resend. Like if resend's API went down, then you lose all those emails, right? So if you didn't trust resend, then yeah, maybe you'd want to have a queue for that. And so yeah, that's not something that we support right now. DaxRad, and who knows DaxRad? He's like the bald guy from Florida who like, he's cool dude. He's also coming to Épique WebConf, and he's going to be talking about a project he made called OpenAuth, which is I actually think that I might take all of the authentication code that we have in our project. So that includes the OAuth stuff and then the auth, all of this auth code here, and that's just like the backend piece, and then we have our routes for our auth. All of this stuff is auth related. We've got our like passkeys and forgot password, all that stuff. I could, if what I think could happen can happen, then I can delete all of that and just run OpenAuth as a sidecar process in the same machine. So you got your app and you've got the auth just right there next to each other in the same machine. And then they can just talk this way. But what, one cool thing about that is you could actually, well, no, it's not cool. You can do that with this. Anyway, it is cool. It's a neat thing. And what's probably the biggest cool thing about that is the amount of code that we could delete here. So that's one. But Dax is also working on a queuing, like open jobs or something like that. And I think that I want to look at running that. If not, then Ingest, I actually worked with them directly on helping. Well, I didn't really do much to help them. I just said, hey, here's a problem. I would be more interested in using Ingest if you solved it. And they did, and I still haven't. So I feel kind of like a tool for that. Eventually, maybe I will. But they made it so that you can run Ingest as a standalone process for local development. That was their like primary motivation. I just was like the kick in the pants to get them to finally do it. But yeah, you should be able to run Ingest as a sidecar process as well. And the benefit of that, like part of the reason that you do jobs, there are two reasons, or like a queuing system, jobs, crons, whatever. There are two reasons. One is for failover and retries. The other is to free up your busy server that's serving requests. And so by putting it as a sidecar process, you don't really like you get the benefit of retries, but you don't really get, freeing up your thing. But the reason that we do it this way as like the default is because you might not ever run into the situation where you need to have it in a separate service. And the more services you add, the just extra complexity. So we're going to start with the simple thing, and then, yeah, it should be pretty straightforward to just pull that out. And like that, we can have docs on how to do all of that. But anyway, to answer your, I find that I use a lot of words to answer simple questions. I hope that it's at least interesting. The simple answer to your question is, yes, jobs and queuing are probably the biggest thing. Until recently, it was passkeys and image processing. We solved those. So I'm still working on this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Abraham.
Kent, have you seen PG Boss for Postgres?
PG what?
PG Boss.
PG, oh, like is it a queuing thing built into
and
Postgres?
queuing and scheduling, and I think that API is very good. It's very solid, but it's also something you could totally run in SQLite. I think you can port it to SQLite or something similar. So that would be a great solution for the Épique stack, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the sort of thing that would be in line with our goals, like just like use the stuff we've already got. I actually I did start building my own queuing solution, and then I was like, I feel like I'm just rewriting ingest, and so then that's when I reached out to them. Yeah, like the problem with that is now you have to add a UI for it. Actually, one thing I didn't mention here that we have, I'm not running this locally, am I? Let me run this locally so you can see this. So we have admin. We have a cache. Oh, I gotta log in. Here. Oh, whoops. Wrong thing. Log in and get it. No, go away. Go away. I'm just kidding. Log in and get them. What? Oh, do I? Dang it. I need to have Prisma DB or migrate reset. Yeah, lose all the data. Yada yada yada. Restart the server. Okay. So log in with GitHub. I'm logged in as Cody. So now I'm an admin. So we have caching built in. That looks really bad. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. Yeah, so I had to build a UI for this myself. What the heck is that? I am so embarrassed. Hold on. Let me find where. I cannot stand for this. What is that? There's got to be a map somewhere. There it is. No, no, no. This is in the select. We've got them. What is that? Total result. Oh. Hover over it, and you get the title. Total result shown. That's what that is. I did not render 0. all you people training my AI to do like children.length and children.map. Don't do that. No. It's this. That's what you do instead. Okay, anyway. Whew. That was close. Anyway, so yes, you have to build your own UI when you're doing that stuff, which is not bad, but like you're stuck with this code that you have to maintain as well. And so like I'm trying to think of ways that I can avoid having to do that. But thanks for bringing it up. It's interesting. Cool. There was another question back here.
You already answered it.
Oh, great. Was it about caching?
About like, did you thought about implementing jobs yourself?
Yes, I did. I did. I'm glad I did not do it. Because DAX, I think, is going to do a really great job. And ingest is also very great. In fact, ingest, Épique stack, right here. If you wanted to, he never actually merged this, but this is how you would do ingest with the Épique stack. So if you ever wanted to look, it's really not that hard. You make sorry, I shouldn't say things are not hard. Everybody's in a different place in their lives in this way. But there's not a lot of code changes necessary. How about that? Yeah, so you have a route for that. And anyway, I'm just going on. You can take a look at that later. Last question. Ha! We almost did go to 9.
Did you try. I'm trying now open telemetry, and do you think it could be something useful for the Épique stack, or is Sentry isn't enough to do?
Yeah, that is great question. Depending on your scale, you're probably in some situations it'd be like, yeah, you're not going to not do open telemetry. Like I can't imagine a world where PayPal, where I used to work at PayPal, where they wouldn't do open telemetry. Like you got to have that. I never used it. Actually, no, I don't think I ever used it as an engineer debugging stuff. But I just feel like they wouldn't let you not. But no, so to quickly answer your question, no, the Épique stack doesn't have open telemetry. I did implement it. The Épique stack is actually based on my website, kensydodds.com. And then I just like stripped a bunch of stuff away and made things better. And so I did add open telemetry to my website. And I what's that? Honeycomb. I added Honeycomb for it. And man, that costs so much money. It's insane. What are they doing? Like, you know how much we have to pay, how much we as consumers of software products have to pay because they charge so much for their telemetry stuff. We're paying like 20% more because of how much they have to pay for telemetry stuff. So I don't think that, personally, I think Sentry is good enough for the vast majority of apps. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you. Yeah, Sentry's fabulous. Thanks, everybody. I guess I'll just wrap it up. I think it's probably still possible to buy a ticket to my workshop tomorrow. Anybody here going to the workshop tomorrow? Yeah, let's go, Abraham. So yeah, if you want to learn about React performance, we're going to have a great time tomorrow. And then how many of you are coming to the conference this week? Cool. There's probably still opportunity to get tickets to the conference as well. It's going to be so fun. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Hallway track is the best. And with that, I just want to say thank you for welcoming me to your beautiful city, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.